I, like many other conservatives, arrived at conservatism and became right-wing because of the disillusionment and evil of left-wing ideology. My disdain for left-wing ideology is no secret, obviously. You know that there's a clear theme if you've watched me for long enough. However, your alignment with one type of politics should never keep you from criticizing it. I am on the right. However, I feel as if many on my side are making a very unnecessary and almost arrogant mistake. See, I gained political awareness watching people like Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro, watching all of the libs destroyed with facts and logic videos.
So, how do you say that some people don't have privilege when you basically just said that trans people aren't valid? They're not a thing. They're just girls pretending to be boys or boys pretending to be girls.
Okay. Oh, someone's excited. Okay.
It's biological, but gender is a completely different thing.
No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So.
It's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society.
Okay. No, it is not in the mind. Okay, you're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretending, or if I did, I shouldn't have said pretending. Let me amend.
You said playing.
Okay, I said a boy who thinks he's a girl. That's the usual phraseology I use. Not playing. I usually say a boy who thinks he's a girl or a girl who thinks he's a boy, which is technically what we're talking about here. As far as the actual psychological issues at play, it used to be called gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Now they call it gender dysphoria. The idea that sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. You're still a human being, and you're a human being with an issue that I wish you Godspeed in dealing with in whatever way you see fit.
Very entertaining, by the way. In fact, Steven Crowder's change on my videos were beyond formative when I was in high school.
But the man who is getting violently assaulted, I do not believe is more privileged than the woman who isn't. And statistically, that's the likelihood. It's not a privilege.
It is because biologically, that male who's being assaulted by another male has a better chance of defending themselves than a female who is being assaulted by a male. And that's the gender difference. We're going to talk about male privilege.
Sure.
We have to talk about the influence on the opposite gender. I don't give a about when you're talking about like male on male crime.
Really? I do.
This is not what it's about. If
It
you want
is.
to talk about that,
Sure
talk
it is.
about crime. Let's talk about crime. We're talking about male privilege.
Yes.
And I'm bringing up the biological inherent differences between the genders.
I agree on that. I agree that biology
Women
determines sex and gender. Yeah.
Are less likely and less capable of defending themselves against the opposite gender.
Sure.
Through biological.
No, listen. I agree.
differences.
That's why I'm a huge supporter of women concealing and carrying.
I really haven't moved radically from those same positions. Politics, however, has changed pretty drastically since 2017. Now, the right really hasn't changed in that amount of time. The MAGA coalition is still the MAGA coalition. The message is still really the same. The policies haven't changed very much. The only thing that's changed is the populace. More people are waking up, and thus Trump gets more popular, resulting in a popular vote victory and a sweep of all 7 swing states. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing new about Marxism or socialism or communism. I might not be old enough to remember what Occupy Wall Street was like, but I was old enough to remember what those Summer of Love protests were like. I bring this up because, going back to Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder less so, is the prevalence of the political motto, facts don't care about your feelings. This was obviously a very good quip to throw at young progressive liberals on college campuses, and even regular Democrats you might disagree with, when pointing out standard facts that are borne out in statistics and reality. Kind of like a political burn, so to speak. Now, this video isn't about why facts don't care about your feelings, it's bad political messaging. Because, quite frankly, for the time, it really wasn't. What this video is about is the right making a very arrogant mistake in its offensive attacks. Quite frankly, you may be logically correct, and you may be articulate enough to send the message home, really hit hard, make those progressive soy boys look really stupid and idiotic, trigger and destroy them, but this is a giant mistake. The left is very emotional.
I'm sorry! No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
Progressive's entire economic plan is literally premised on the idea that don't worry, we'll pay for it later. They have no structure of taxation in mind, except for taxing trillionaires at this point and quadrillionaires soon. Their ideology is premised on feel-good politics and feel-good values. In fact, all the things that the right correctly points out about leftism, about progressivism, about the left more broadly, with the virtue signaling, that's exactly correct.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
It is time to take responsibility.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem.
No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice.
A few moments later.
We're here inside CNN Center. We're just in the last 10 minutes. We just see the violence happening here in front of us. They just threw something on fire, Chris, a firecracker.
Yep.
Something's on fire.
Nick, you all right?
You okay? We're getting out of here, Chris.
All right, get yourself to a safer location.
But the truth is that correctness is exactly why this blunt reality-based approach does more harm than good. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I'm not very moderate when it comes to how I want to go after the left. Quite frankly, I think most of the time, the right doesn't go nearly hard enough. When your brand of politics is rooted in reality, logic, and truth, while you at least believe that your opponents are based in fantasy, idealist, and utopian, you can't expect to win just by splashing them with cold water. Feelings are inherently irrational. There's a reason why vigilantism is bad. We go through a legal system to ensure that all bias from the victim's point of view is addressed and dealt with, so the punishment upon the aggressor is measured, rational, and just. Vigilantism is revenge. It is one subjective feeling of what is getting even. One minor transgression might justify a larger transgression, but only through the court of law may we aim to balance out the scales and make one party whole. The left is irrational, and telling someone who's irrational to their face that they are wrong and embarrassing them might make you feel good in the moment, as many conservatives do when they watch those woke leftist dude destroyed videos, but if you go back when you may have been a teenager, or hell, maybe you are one now, how does it feel, or how did it feel, when someone older than you, perhaps your parent or someone else, told you correctly that you were being an idiot and may have embarrassed you? Did that give you the revelation that, wow, they're right. I'm so glad they shined a light on my ignorance on that thing. I surely will change my ways going forward. Or maybe did it make you go twice as hard and try to stick it to them, being petty? Because all I know is that after telling the left for so many years that facts don't care about your feelings and pointing out the hard facts of reality and truth and logic, they don't seem to be taking it very well. And it may seem to some that they're just radical extremists and young and dumb, which many of them are. You can't exactly say you're making it any better. Because the reality is that while conservatives are right, facts don't care about your feelings. The reality of our opponents, the left, is also very true. Their feelings don't care about your facts. It's this idea that telling someone that 2 + 2 = 4 doesn't matter when they say that 2 + 2 = 5 and they have a Molotov cocktail in their hand. Do they consciously operate in the realm of reality? No, maybe not. But does that stop them from looting, rioting, and attacking Teslas?
All right, the FBI investigating the bombs found in a Tesla showroom in Austin as protesters prepare for their Tesla takedown day of action this week. Here's AOC on who she's blaming for the violence against Teslas.
I think Democrats are to blame for why people are so triggered by this, because when you're at rallies saying, not you particularly, but your colleagues saying F Elon Musk and using other words, profane words to describe him, does that rile people up, your supporters, to take action on their own?
I don't know. You know, I think about Republicans calling me a communist and Republicans saying that I hate this country, and I certainly have felt the impact of that.
No, you cannot rationalize with someone who will not act rationally. Doing so only makes things worse. It makes me very frustrated seeing how dumbfounded many conservatives are when they see how far the left will go. Almost as if they expected that all of that communist, revolutionary spirit also died when the Berlin Wall collapsed. Countries may die. Leaders surely do. But ideas very easily live on forever. You can make jokes about them at their expense, you can point and laugh at their idiocy, you can make light of their political ideology. But don't be surprised when they take that around and become even more radical and extreme. Don't get me wrong, this is not to say that we shouldn't do that. What I'm saying is that we should. But we should also politically arm ourselves with an attitude suitable for their vengeance. No, I'm not calling for a civil war. No, I'm not calling for violence. What I am saying is that if we continue to treat the left as if they are all just a bunch of young, stupid, ignorant college liberals, we will distract ourselves with our own amusement while they corral themselves and arm themselves with the vicious, deadly, and murderous revolutionary spirits fueled by irrational pettiness and fervor.
Absolutely insane. We're supposed to jump up and feel sad that the guy who was one of the most divisive presidents in all of history got shot at? Give me a break. Please give me a break.
Okay, one person is dead who isn't Trump, right, who got shot out. Someone in the crowd that was just going to a rally who got murked by this guy, and two others are in critical condition. I think it's okay to show a little empathy, don't you?
You're right. Hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't know somebody else died. What state was this in?
Pennsylvania, my state.
Swing state voter. Fuck you. Sorry, what?
Okay. This is the problem, right? It's not the only problem we have, but it's absolutely a problem when we think it's okay to joke about people getting killed because they are political opponents, right? And it's a swing state voter. That's bullshit. And this idea that we see the other side as this enemy that cannot be redeemed, that it's okay to joke about violence with, it's okay to make these asinine statements, is one of the reasons that someone thought it was okay to take a shot at a contender for the presidency of the United States. We have opened up this Pandora box. We are lighting a fire that we will not be able to control. And it won't be just the people, the people who get burned won't just be the ones that we think deserve it. It's going to burn a whole lot of others. We're starting an inferno.
It's already burnt, dog. It's already burning.
Is there anything rational about assassinating a health insurance CEO? No. Pure 100% vigilantism. You know what didn't help? Probably telling him that the free market works and that facts don't care about his feelings. You know what his feelings don't care about? Your GDP statistics. Communism does not grow because of logical persuasion. It's fueled by feel-good oppressor worldviews that pit certain people against each other in vicious, deadly class warfare. There's nothing logical about murdering tens of millions of your own citizens as Joseph Stalin did. There's nothing logical about starving tens of millions of your own citizens as Mao did. It's a fanatical spirit of revolution that fuels these movements. But I bet if we went back in time and told Stalin and Mao that facts don't care about your feelings, they would have gotten it. But in an era of live and let live, where you're never allowed to be proactive, all we do on the right is instigate and antagonize. And we never tell ourselves it's okay to make the first move until they hit us first, as if we expect them to play by the same moral game as we do. Newsflash, the left does not play fair. They never have, and they never will. And expecting anything different is the definition of insanity. Trump practiced and demonstrated incredible grace and mercy when he won in 2016 by not going after Hillary Clinton and locking her up. What did the left do in exchange? Did they show the same mercy and grace towards Trump and the right? No. They indicted him in city after city after city in kangaroo courts on charges that stretched the rubber band so far that it kept breaking until one district attorney was so twisted that he was able to get a conviction on a completely bullshit charge. They went after Trump, they went after his lawyers, and they went after his associates. Trump showed mercy, and all they did in return was take the sword and swing for the head. Remember the Summer of Love, the George Floyd riots, city after city across this country engulfed in flames? So many small businesses closed after getting looted and destroyed, set on fire. Do you remember all the waves of convictions that never happened? I'm sure you don't. But I'm sure you do know about all the January 6ers that were put in federal prison for years for quite innocent crimes, or were put in jail just for setting foot on the premises. To me, it's so frustrating because when will we learn our lesson? Why do we always have to wait until they swing at us before we swing at them? All we are doing is putting our hands up in a moral display of integrity, which only leaves us vulnerable to their first attack. Showing mercy gives them the first swing, and we're just lucky they haven't knocked us out first. Look, you may want to try to put as much distance between the radicals and your classic liberal friends as possible. I completely understand that, and that makes perfect sense. And your liberal friend may even admit that their progressive wing of their party is crazy and radical and doesn't represent all liberals. They might be right, but what you can't do is allow that compartmentalization to make you forget that all those progressive, radical leftists, communists, socialists, Marxists exist in the first place, because they do. They do exist. And they're waiting for you to signal your own virtue and not make the first move.
As a white woman, aware of my own privilege in this country, I am so angry. And I can't even begin. Forgive me.
So that they can grab the political sword of government or a social Molotov cocktail and make you yield to their irrational, revolutionary, radical fervor. The people whom I'm talking about, not your liberal best friend, but the radicals, the extremists, the Marxists.
The Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, and people who, in many instances, have absolutely no clue what they are doing.
They don't obey by your moral code, your logical worldview, your rules of engagement. They are too focused on achieving their perception of winning at all costs. These are the same people who make business owners into literal capitalist devils. It's the people saying that the earth is going to burst into a ball of flames yesterday, who glued themselves to the roads. These activists are not rational, they are not logical, they are not based in reality. They run on emotions, they run on feelings, and slapping them with facts doesn't make them enlightened. What it does is make them feel ignored, and maybe even more righteous. What you have to do is harsher, perhaps not as nice, surely not as civil or graceful, but absolutely necessary, is to fight fire with fire. Because entering the ring with your opponent and not swinging until they do only gives them the perfect opportunity for a 5-second knockout. I wish that political discussions and discourse could only exist in an ideological realm, where the battle of ideas through debates and discussions are the only option. If you are a student of history, however, you know that while we can wish real hard, those hopes and aspirations are just that, hopes and aspirations. You can only be as moral as your enemy lets you be because, after all, if you're competing with someone on a test and they stick in their cell phone and look up the answers, you either adapt or perish. I wish that liberals and centrists didn't have to deal with the residual effects of their more radical extremist colleagues, that civility was still the standard and the norm. I do. I really do. But in life, not everything goes to plan. There are idiots out there who will resort to violence for political reasons, who will try to assassinate people for political differences and ends. Some will be successful. Those events were shocking and inconceivable to many, but to others who could see the writing on the wall, it was coming. How often could you call him Hitler until someone does something? You can only play with those who agreed to the rules of the game. If someone refuses to pay for something, you cannot let them into the store. Doing so under the premise that they haven't stolen anything yet will only get you looted. Communism didn't die after the Berlin Wall fell. It surely didn't kill socialism, still being practiced around the world. So please stop acting like they will act any differently toward you. In the end, the lesson here isn't that we should abandon our morals, our commitment to truth, or our belief in rationality. It's that we must be wise enough to recognize the battlefield that we're actually on. The left doesn't fight fair. They never have, and they never will. Pretending otherwise is not an act of integrity. It's an act of naivety that will cost us everything. It's not enough to be right, to point out facts, or to mock them for their insanity and walk away feeling victorious. They are not debating. They are mobilizing. They are not losing arguments. They are fueling revolutions. We must stop playing by rules that our opponents never agreed to. We must stop pretending that facts alone will save us in a world ruled increasingly by feelings, vengeance, and power. If we truly want to preserve our way of life, our freedom, our values, our future, then we must be willing to fight smarter, harder, and without apology. Because the truth is, feelings don't care about your facts. And if we don't start adapting to that reality, we will lose. And when we lose, it won't just be a debate lost. It will be our country. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you just support and help the channel grow, become a member, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with all my uploads. Finally, whether you agree or disagree, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Look forward to engaging with you guys in respectful and thoughtful discussions. With that said, see you guys next video. See ya.